Hello all, welcome to Abhiram IAS Academy. Let us go through the daily chronicles of January 23, 2025. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which has completed 10 years since its launch. It is relevant for your GS1, that is women issues, and also GS2, social justice and vulnerable sections, which includes women also. So these two are the articles. So Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme, it was launched in 2015. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme is basically a flagship government initiative to fight the gender issues, that is gender disparity issues, and also ensure survival, protection and education of the girl child. There are numerous stages in a woman's life, and at each stage she has to face some issues. For example, during infancy, we have female infanticide and also neglect in her health and nutrition. Then during childhood also, there might be limited access to education and she might be forced into child labor because the family cannot afford to educate the girl child. Instead, they can choose for the son's education. There will also be gender-based discrimination from the very early stage. During adolescence, the girls will go through some specific issues, like there is a problem or concern about the child marriage. Okay, India is home to 1/3 of the global child brides. So that highlights how grave is the child marriage situation in India. And also there are possibilities like sexual harassment at the schools, and school dropouts are high at this stage because of the safety concerns, and also the concerns about menstrual hygiene and management issues in adolescent stage. So then we have adulthood. Adulthood, women are frequently subjected to domestic violence at home. There are also other issues like reproductive health issues, and they're economically dependent on the male member of the family. Then in their married life, there are other issues like dowry harassment and limited autonomy or agency, that is ability to take any decisions regarding their life. They have limited autonomy, and there is also a pressure for generating male offsprings on women. And during the work life, there may be problems like workplace discrimination, wage disparity will be there, and also we know labor force participation rate of women is very low for women. Okay, it is hardly 21% compared to 70% for male. So there are also safety concerns during commute, and during old age there are problems like economic insecurity and also age-related health issues and social isolation. So these are various problems faced by women during their lifetime. So the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao specially focuses on these two stages, okay? That is your infancy and childhood. Let us go through the data as per the 2011 census regarding different types of sex ratios. That is your overall sex ratio and child sex ratio, and also sex ratio at birth. So what is sex ratio at birth? That is nothing but number of female births corresponding to 1,000 male births. Okay, so that is sex ratio at birth. This data is not explicitly given in this census, but as per some estimates, it is 909. Okay, and overall sex ratio is nothing but across all the age groups and among all the population, what is the number of females for 1,000 males. So that is overall sex ratio, and that figure is 943. Okay, and who are the top performing states in these? Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Meghalaya are the top 5 states. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh are the top 3. Okay, and who are the bottom 3? Haryana, Jammu Kashmir and Sikkim. So Haryana, Jammu Kashmir and Sikkim are the bottom 3, and including Punjab and Bihar in the bottom 5. Then we have child sex ratio. Child sex ratio is nothing but the number of females available for 1,000 males in the age group of 0 to 6 years. Okay, so this is 919, that is 919, and the top performers, that is the states with very good child sex ratio, are Mizoram, Meghalaya, Tripura. So these are the top 3, Mizoram, Meghalaya and Tripura. Then at the bottom we have Haryana, Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. Haryana, Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir at the bottom. in child sex ratio. And then we have sex ratio at birth. So why it is important to know these data? So sex ratio at birth can give us an insight into whether there are any societal biases, okay, like your female infanticide, okay, and regarding the child neglect, okay, the girl child neglect in the early ages, we can get to know this from child sex ratio. So she may be born, but she may be neglected, especially in her healthcare, okay, and also nutritional needs. So this might lead to reduced survival rates for the girl child in the child sex ratio, which is reflected in this number, okay. So India's sex ratio at birth is 909 and child sex ratio is 919. Usually overall sex ratio will be around 950, okay, because there is a high probability of males birth rather than females birth in the early stages. But when it comes to old age, the overall sex ratio will be skewed towards females because females have higher life expectancy. So what about this scheme, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao? It is basically launched in January 22nd, 2015, and its main objective is to address the gender disparity issues and also ensure the protection, survival and education of the girl child, okay. So what are the broader focus areas of this scheme? It is menstrual health, child marriage prevention, and also included an element of girls in sports. So sports is seen as a tool for empowering the young girls. So that is the latest inclusion. But what are the challenges? There are some structural and implementation gaps also. We will look into this. And what are the broad objectives? Specific objectives to achieve these things. That is, improve the sex ratio at birth by 2 points annually, okay, especially in some targeted districts where we find less than usual or very less than average sex ratio at birth, and also maintain institutional deliveries, that is, achieve and maintain higher percentage of institutional deliveries, more than 95%. So the scheme aims to achieve this also. And regarding the education, it wants to improve the gross enrollment ratio of the girls at least 1% annually. So what is gross enrollment ratio? It is nothing but the proportion of the children who are attending the school levels. Okay, there are different school levels, primary, secondary and higher secondary. So at different levels, we will have some children enrolled, okay, and then they might be of particular age group, okay. So gross enrollment ratio, if it is more than 100, that means there are either other age group children, that is either younger or elder children in this age group, then the gross enrollment ratio will be more than 100. So we want to improve the gross enrollment ratio, especially in the higher secondary and secondary education, because that is where adolescent girls will face some issues. And there is an increasing dropout rate at the higher secondary level. So that's why the scheme focuses on this stage. So it wants to reduce the dropout rates and promote vocational training. So what is vocational training? It is different from the usual academic education, which focuses on the theoretical knowledge. So vocational training is nothing but hands-on skills, okay. They will be given targeted instructions to build their skills, maybe in specific crafts or trades or some kind of professions like mechanic, okay, culinary skills, baking, chef, tailoring, or any kind of plumber, carpenter. All these will come under vocational training because they can improve the chances of earning income even if they don't have any traditional academics. So another aspect is promoting the menstrual hygiene, okay, and it wants to challenge the gender biases also. So what is menstrual hygiene? So there might be different components like availability of safe menstrual products, safe and hygiene, okay, and we need some spaces also for changing and washing, okay. So all this will come under menstrual health or menstrual hygiene practices. So if there are proper menstrual hygiene systems, girls' dropout will decrease at higher secondary education. That's why it wants to focus on this also. And what are gender biases? So gender biases can be reflected in numerous aspects, starting from the child. Okay, there may be female infanticide, and when she grows up, there may be neglect of girl child, all this. And so these are nothing but gender biases. Okay, so these rights, survival, protection, and education of the girl child are nothing but the rights enshrined in United Nations Convention for the Rights of Child. So we have adopted the rights from this convention. So that is broadly about the objectives. Then let us look at the problem of child marriage in India. So how is the prevalence? It is specifically high. That is 1/3 of the global child brides are in India alone. And according to UNICEF, we have 23% of women aging 20 to 24 who are married before attaining 18 years. Okay. And India right now has 22 crore, around 22.24 crore or 222 million child brides. And there are some high prevalence states also like West Bengal, Bihar and Tripura. So these are high prevalence for child marriage. Then there are some low prevalence states also. They are Lakshadweep and also your southern states. Then what are the risk factors with this child marriage? So there will be higher child brides in rural areas, okay, and especially poorer families who cannot afford to raise the girl child beyond a certain age, they want to marry her off. So that's why we can see this phenomena more in the poorer families. Another data point is only 20% of those who are actually married when they were a child continue their education. That means 80% of the girls who get married usually drop out of the schools and discontinue their education. Then let us have a look at the progress. It has declined, but it is insufficient over the 15 years, and we cannot meet the 2030 Sustainable Developmental Goals targets also in this child marriage area. So let us look at this Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao key features and what are the achievements so far. So it is fully funded by the central government. However, it doesn't have any direct benefit transfer, that is cash component, and also no capital asset creation, okay, like some kind of infrastructure. So these are not there in this scheme. It is mainly aiming at campaigning, behavioral change, okay, and some kind of monitoring mechanisms, okay. So these are different dimensions. So it is fully funded by the central government. And who is the nodal ministry for this? It is Ministry of Women and Child Development is the nodal ministry, but it is a tri-ministerial effort. That is, your Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and also Ministry of Education are involved, and they collaborate with the Ministry of Women and Child for this program. It also has an element, that is district level scorecards are there and Gudi Guda boards. So these are nothing but innovations like to improve the transparency. The communities will display a board having real-time data of the sex ratios at the community level. So we can monitor it digitally also. There are digital boards also, okay. So it gives data on a real-time basis so that policymakers can look at them and understand the impact. It is also a component of Mission Shakti, that is a comprehensive scheme aiming to have integrated women empowerment, okay. Through a life cycle approach, it wants to focus on multiple areas, that is women's safety, security and also empowerment dimensions. So it is a component of this Mission Shakti. There are also some behavioral campaigns like we will celebrate National Girl Child Day, okay. National Girl Child Day is on January 22nd. Why this day? Because in 1966, Indira Gandhi becomes the first woman Prime Minister on this day. So that was the swearing in day of Indira Gandhi becoming the Prime Minister. So that's why this is celebrated as the National Girl Child Day. And what are the achievements so far? So we have improved the sex ratio at birth, okay. It was 918 or 919 according to some sources. So from there we have come to 930, that is in 2023-24, it has improved to 930. And also institutional deliveries have significantly improved, and we have already achieved the target of more than 95. We have come close to 97%. So which is one significant achievement in the last decade. regarding the education, we have improved the gross enrollment ratio of the girl child in both secondary and higher secondary education, but it is less. Okay, it has improved from 56.4% in 2015 to just 58.2% in 2021. Okay, and then we can see some cultural shifts. Okay, the girl childs are prioritized now, and also we have promoted menstrual hygiene, gender equality, and also sports participation is included. So the scheme also has evolved to include all these components. Next, what about Mission Shakti? It has two major components, Sambal and Samardhya. So it tries to address numerous issues faced by the women throughout her life cycle, and it has specific schemes for all these. Under Sambal, which aims at safety, security of women, we have one-stop centers, women helplines, and also BBBP, that is Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, that is under Sambal, and Nari Adalats. So these are women-led alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. And under Samardhya, we have other components like Ujjwala, Swadhargre, Working Women's Hostel, National Krishi Scheme, and also Matru Vandana Yojana. And also it has gap funding for economic empowerment. So these are different components of Mission Shakti, and Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao comes under Sambal aspect of the Mission Shakti. So what are the challenges so far? So there is still a gender bias, that is there is son preference and son meta preference. So what are these? Son preference is different from son meta preference. That is, son preference is even more dangerous because it involves female infanticide or feticide. Okay, because they want sons, they simply attempt at female infanticides or female feticides, whereas son meta preference is continuing the childbirth till the family obtains a male child. So that is son meta preference. Okay, this leads to larger family sizes, okay, and allocation of family resources in a discriminatory manner, because the girls are unwanted here. Okay, these are unwanted girls, and these are missing girls because they are not even born and they are missing. Okay, according to 2017-18 economic survey, there are 23 million unwanted girls. Okay, and there are also regional disparities in sex ratio at birth. Okay, we can see, we have already seen sex ratio is different for different states. There are some areas like Haryana, Jammu Kashmir, Sikkim, Punjab and Bihar which have lower sex ratio at birth. So there is regional disparity also regarding the sex ratio at birth. Then education dropouts. There are some barriers for entry into the education for the girl child, because when they become adolescent, they usually get married. So that is, early marriage threat is there, and also even if they are not married, they are usually allocated the household chores duty. So their education will be compromised, and they lack sanitation facilities also wherever they work, okay, or even in schools. And we have already seen 1/3 of the global child brides are in India, and 222 million child brides. And another challenge is underutilized fund. So we have allocated in budget some amount of fund, but the government is unable to utilize that, and most of that is allocated in only few areas like media campaigns, okay, rather than the grassroots level infrastructure development, and very little is left for other issues like transportation facilities for girls and regular health checkups of the adolescents, and also safe and affordable menstrual products, and also gender sensitive infrastructure at schools. So these are not prioritized. Instead, only media campaigns are consuming 80% of the allocated resources. Then there are gender parity issues also. That is, we have consistently performed low on the Global Gender Gap Report, that is by World Economic Forum. We have actually performed well in 2016. We got the rank 87, but since then it has dropped significantly, and in 2021 it came to 140, that is all-time low, and it is 129 in the last year, that is 2024. So there are some gender parity issues. We have to strengthen the grassroots implementation. So for example, in Haryana, there was a door-to-door campaign regarding the promotion of girl child protection survival. So they want to curb the female infanticide and fight the very low sex ratios in Haryana. So they have undertaken this door-to-door campaign. That is one grassroots initiative. And also in Rajasthan, we have seen during Navratri, they have celebrated the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao as a part of this Navratri celebration in Rajasthan. And Rajasthan also has declined the child bride incidents after this program. So case studies like this can be replicated and scaled up at a national level. And also we have to grab the local resources and local human infrastructure, that is your non-government entities or local bodies like panchayats. They also have to strive and work together to solve this sex ratio decline. Also, we have to reallocate the funds away from the media and to the other grassroots initiatives. Okay. Also, conduct the regular audits of the financial aspects wherever we are spending, whether they are delivering the promises. We have to check for that through regular independent audits. Then whatever the structural barriers are there, without addressing them, we cannot hope to solve this crisis in the long term. It can be only short-term mechanism. So what are the structural barriers? We have seen the societal or behavioral aspects have to change, okay, like the son preference or child marriages. These are all structural barriers. And also we need to improve the sanitation facilities at the school, and we have to curb the child marriage. Broaden the educational opportunities for the girl child with vocational and digital literacy. We have seen vocational can have a positive impact on anyone. If they are even uneducated, they can grab some skills and improve their possibilities of income generation. Then expand the cultural campaigns also, because it is an issue of behavioral aspect. As per a study, 80% of the individuals actually prefer sons in families. Okay, why does this happen? Because of some cultural reasons also, because son will have family name, okay, and also he is the one who performs the last rites, so he has religious role also, and he might be the sole breadwinner for whole family. So that's why son is preferred in Indian society. So what are the insights we get from this? So we have to improve on the sex ratio birth, but it is very slow. However, it is steady, and which is a positive sign. And education is very critical to develop the agency or decision-making power of the girl child. So we cannot compromise on that. And we need a holistic approach, not a piecemeal approach like media campaigns. We need a holistic level and collaboration of all the stakeholders at the grassroots level. Then only schemes like this can succeed. And so what is the conclusion? Achievements have actually improved the sex ratio at birth, institutional deliveries, and also gross enrollment ratios. So these three parameters have actually improved, but there are some persistent challenges like cultural biases, funding is inefficient, and funding priorities are misplaced, and there are disparities in the regions also. Different states have different capacities. And so what is the vision? A society where every girl is valued, educated, and empowered. So this is how we can conclude. So there are three major cabinet decisions, that is, National Health Mission was extended for another 5 years, and also your price of minimum support price of the raw jute has improved to help the farmers assure of some particular income, and also expansion of the stroke care units, that is the brain stroke. Okay, so the facilities which aim at addressing this brain stroke have to be expanded. So these three are the major cabinet decisions. We will look at National Health Mission. So it is relevant for your GS2 governance and health topic. Okay, this is the article. So National Health Mission is nothing but, it was launched in 2005 initially as a National Rural Health Mission, but after the urban dimension was added, that is National Urban Health Mission, it was integrated as one, and from 2013 we have National Health Mission. So what is National Health Mission? It was launched in 2013 mainly to have affordable, accessible, and quality healthcare for the communities in both rural and urban, but main focus is on the vulnerable sections. Okay, that is your elderly, women, and child. So it majorly tries to focus on these three groups. Then the 2021-24 report on National Health Mission has highlighted the contributions of this mission in fighting the healthcare challenges in India. So what are different components of National Health Mission? We have seen National Rural Health Mission initially was launched, and then National Urban Health Mission. Then we have reproductive, maternal, newborn, child and adolescent health. So this covers all the ages, okay? This has a life cycle approach and also incorporated communicable and non-communicable diseases. The mission also tries to incorporate the infrastructure aspect through this, that is strengthening health system component. That is nothing but building PHCs or health and wellness centers, expanding them, even the human resources, that is recruiting lot of medical staff. All this will come under this. And tertiary care programs also. So some cases may need special attention and at higher levels only this care will be obtained. So that is nothing but your tertiary care. So the scheme also has a component for this, for specialized care delivery, and human resources for health and medical education is also one component of this. So what is the difference between health and wellness center and your PHCs, primary health centers? So this is actually under National Health Mission, whereas this is under Ayushman Bharat scheme, which was launched in 2018. Okay, so this is majorly curative. Okay, but this is preventive also. Palliative care is also there, rehabilitative care. So it has an integrated or holistic approach, whereas this is primarily restricted to few aspects like curative aspect. Okay, what are the services under this? So they will also have screening services for non-communicable diseases, and they also have telemedicine facilities. Okay, even the mental health aspect is prioritized in the health and wellness center. Elderly care is also prioritized. And then who are the staff here? So mid-level health provider will be there, and also community health organizations will be there. Whereas under PHCs, we have medical officers, auxiliary nurse midwives, and also paramedical staff. So what is the technology then? It includes telemedicine and digital tools, but here there are no such things. Only minimal use of technology is there. Only the staff provides the healthcare and it is very limited. So the scope is broader in health and wellness center compared to the PHCs. So this National Health Mission was extended for another 5 years by the cabinet decision. So because it has contributed significantly to improve the health outcomes of Indians over the past decade. So it was launched in 2005 mainly to improve the healthcare services in all the areas. So but it was extended last time in 2021. So recent decision is to extend it for another 5 years. So what are the achievements? It played a crucial role even during COVID pandemic, okay? And it contributed significantly to improve the maternal and child health aspects. We have improved our maternal mortality rate and also infant mortality rate over the last decade, and National Health Mission has a significant role in that. So what are the focus areas? It wants to ensure accessible and affordable healthcare even in the remote areas, okay? And it wants to deliver quality healthcare services, okay? That is by professional medical staff, it can happen. Then Piyush Goyal said that we recognize this as an integral part of addressing the healthcare challenges in India. So that is the significance of National Health Mission. So let us understand the achievements of the National Health Mission by going through different parameters like neonatal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, and also under 5 mortality rate. So what is neonatal mortality rate? So out of 1,000 live births, how many children have actually died within the first 28 days? So that is your neonatal mortality rate, okay? And under the 5 years, we have under 5 mortality rate, and under 1 year, we have infant mortality rate. So these parameters can give us an understanding about the actual survival and health aspects of the children, whether they are surviving till the adulthood. We can know by looking at these parameters and understand if there is any deficiency of nutrition or healthcare services. So what is the neonatal mortality rate? It is 24.9. This is the recent figure per 1,000 live births. So what is this live birth? So there are different types of births like live birth, stillbirth, preterm birth. So the live birth is nothing but the baby is healthy after being born, completing all the gestation period. So that is live birth. Next, infant mortality rate is 35.2 per 1,000 live births, and under 5 mortality rate is 41.9 per 1,000 live births. So what are the corresponding SDG, that is Sustainable Development Goal targets by 2030? So these are the targets. So neonatal mortality target is 12 per 1,000 by 2030, and right now we are at 25. What about the infant mortality rate? There is no specific target in this aspect. It was actually aligned with these two. Okay, so there is no specific target with respect to infant mortality rate under SDG goals, but we have a target for under 5 mortality rate, that is 25 per 1000 live births. So right now we are at 41.9 or 42. So what are the trends in maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate? Let us understand the improvement happened over the past decade. So it was actually 137, that is maternal mortality rate is 137 in 2013. It has come down significantly to 80 in 2023. So we can see the slope is high, which means there is very good improvement. And infant mortality rate, it was 39.1 in 2013. It has come down to 26.6 in 2023. Okay, so these are the trends. So what is maternal mortality rate? So it is also mortality, that is number of maternal deaths. Okay, whether a pregnant lady or after the childbirth and 42 days after the termination of pregnancy, is she surviving? So we can get an understanding by looking at this indicator. So it is nothing but number of maternal deaths per 1 lakh live births. So it is not 1000, it is 1 lakh. Okay. So who are the top performers in this? So Kerala is the top, it has only 19. Okay. And Maharashtra next, then Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So most of the southern states have performed well in maternal mortality rate. And which are the bottom 5 states? It is Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Orissa. So these are the bottom 5 states, and Assam's maternal mortality rate is 195. That is significantly high. Next, what about the infant mortality rate then? So it is per 1000 live births, and again Kerala is the top performer. It has infant mortality rate of just 6. Okay, and then we have Tamil Nadu second, 15, and Maharashtra 19, like that. So the top performers are Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Punjab and Delhi, and the bottom 5 are Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Assam again here, and Odisha, Chhattisgarh. So these are the bottom 5. So Madhya Pradesh is bottom for infant mortality rate, whereas for maternal mortality rate, it is Assam. Whereas for infant mortality rate and maternal mortality rate, the top performer is Kerala for both. So what are the key achievements under this National Health Mission? We have seen maternal mortality rate has declined significantly from 137 to 80. Okay, it has come below 100 per 1 lakh live births. And infant mortality rate, we have seen it has come down to 28. This is in 2020, and right now it is 26.6. Okay, then we have achieved the replacement level of total fertility rate. So that is, we have achieved 2. That is even less than the actual replacement level needed, that is 2.1. So this was achieved in 2020. So what is total fertility rate? It is nothing but the number of children that would be born to a woman in all the ages combined. So that is your total fertility rate. Then it has also improved the workforce. The scheme has also significantly improved its health workforce, that is over 2 lakhs. 2 lakhs medical staff or healthcare staff have been actually recruited in the last 3 years itself. It was around 3 lakhs 3 years ago. Now it is 5.23 lakh in the community healthcare organizations. So that means there is an improvement in the rural access to healthcare. Okay. Then disease control. The mission also contributed significantly to fight some specific diseases like tuberculosis, sickle cell anemia, and even during COVID, NHM was able to deliver healthcare to the rural locations because of National Health Mission. Okay, so it was strengthened more after the COVID. We can see the healthcare staff has significantly improved after 2021 pandemic. That is, 2 lakh have been recruited in the last 3 years itself. So what are the challenges and limitations? So we can see there are regional disparities. So any problem will have regional disparity because of the administration's capacity will be different for different states. So there is higher maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate in the states like UP, Bihar, we have seen. And there is rural-urban divide also, because the healthcare professionals would like to prefer urban areas because it will help them in professional growth, and also they can access all the city infrastructure, okay, for their families. So that is the reason. and in rural areas there is less compensation also, that is payment is less. So these are the reasons for preference of urban areas by the medical staff. Okay. Another challenge is workforce retention, that is we are unable to retain the talented human resources because the medical professionals are not preferring the underserved areas. So that is one challenge. And also we have focused more on the curative aspect, only the basic healthcare. Okay. And the tertiary healthcare is far from reach for the rural areas, and we don't have NCD focus, that is non-communicable diseases, which is responsible for 60% of deaths in India as per the WHO study of 2022. So this we have seen previously. Another aspect is to have quality assurance, that is we need to retain the talent and also improve the overall quality of the healthcare services in India. So these are the challenges. So what are the recommendations then? We have to expand the PHCs and health and wellness centers, because these are the ones which cater to majority of the rural areas. So we have to expand the network of this, especially in the rural areas, and also we have to integrate the non-communicable diseases also by starting with some screening activities. Okay, regular screening, regular checkup, that can help us assess the problem prior. So that will help us in preventive care. Okay, and then we can use telemedicine and also technological advantages. So this can give us real-time data for better access and monitoring also. We have to improve the training of the healthcare workforce also. So we have seen there is a scarcity in the healthcare professional, and even in those, we have to upgrade their skills. Okay, we have to upgrade their skills and also improve the number of healthcare providers. Then we have to also improve the awareness regarding the maternal and child health among the populations. So how can we conclude? So National Health Mission has significantly contributed to the overall improvement in the healthcare services in India. Okay, but we still have to address the disparities, that is there is regional disparity. We need to upgrade the infrastructure and also human resources. So, and we have to integrate the non-communicable diseases also. So only with strategic investments in these areas, that is both physical and human infrastructure, we can aspire to reach the Sustainable Development Goal targets by 2030. So that's how we can conclude this. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Abhiram IAS Academy.